What time is it? 7:04. Do you guys want to actually like just go around and quickly introduce yourself? Because I know there's a couple new people on here. How do people feel about that?
Sure.
All right. So I'm Liza Bemis. I'm from Hutchins Farm. Melissa, you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. I'm Melissa. I'm from Barrett's Mill Farm.
I'm just going to go around. Steve?
Steve Verrill, Verrill Farm.
Polly?
Polly Vanos. I'm on the board at Gaining Ground.
And also my 7th grade science teacher. That's
There
fun.
you go.
Dan?
Actually, that's probably the most important part of this.
It's the most important part to me. Dan, you want to introduce yourself?
Dan Schmidt from the farm at Walden Woods Project Farm.
And Robert, you on there? Oh,
Robert.
Oh, he muted himself again.
I can't hear him, but
Now he can. Robert, talk.
his microphone may not be working. Robert's the farm manager at Walden Woods.
Yeah.
Cool. Hi, Robert. Anna?
I'm Anna
That's
Copeland. Yeah, no worries. The farm manager at Gaining Ground.
Welcome. Joe?
And Joe Rogers, a non-farmer, but an associate. I don't have a farm.
Happy?
She's not.
Happy's going down. Well, that's Happy. We're
Small
sorry.
earthquake on this part of town.
All right. Kara, not Kara. Brian, using Kara's computer.
I'm Brian. I'm at Hutchins Farm with Liza.
Stuck with me. Lise, we're just going around and introducing ourselves. Do you mind introducing yourself?
I'm Lisa at Barrett's Mill Farm.
I think we got everybody. Happy, are you good on there? Hey. All right. Well, our first agenda item is to review the previous minutes. So we missed last month, but did everyone have a chance to go over September's minutes?
Yeah.
Anybody want to read them now?
I move they be approved as printed.
I'll
Okay, so those minutes are approved. So everybody want to look at October?
I move October be approved as printed.
need a second again. We did.
Sounds great. October is approved.
Minutes are being very well done. They're very well done minutes.
Thanks, Dan. He's doing a good job.
Only with Liza's help.
Proofreading. It's all good.
Take out all the humorous parts that I
That's Brian. That's what I do to his music. So our second agenda item is news from Concord farms and farmers. What's up, guys? What's going on?
Well, we finished mulching the strawberries. A little bit late maybe, but they're done.
You just roll those round bales out? How do you apply those?
We have bought a used bale shredder that we just dump them on the shredder and it shreds them right out and spits them across. And it's a great operation. So much better than dropping the square bales into the spinner.
Barrett's Mill?
Well, like I said, our big event of today was the potting soil for next spring arrived. So that's it. Just working on our crop plan. And we are usually hiring a lot now, but we have a bunch of folks coming back. So we're relieved about that. So hopefully that holds for the rest of the we don't decide to leave, but
Well, you're lucky, that's a good deal.
yeah. How are you doing there, Dan?
Just everything's pretty much put to bed. We've got, the last thing we have is, they're going to be liming hopefully next week. So it was so bad there. That was so acidic when we started that here we put like 10 tons of lime down, about, I don't know, 5 acres, I guess. But seems to be pretty manageable now. So garlic's in. The deer have taken every single brassica that we had anything left in the field and completely consumed it all, including Brussels sprouts are just stems sticking up now.
Wow.
My son-in-law's been trying to hunt some deer and he's wondered where they all went.
9 or 10 deer out there. Crazy about it. They don't even run away when they come out there. Yeah. Have him come over. Does he do bow and arrow or?
Yeah, he does both.
Right. Has he had any success, or they just don't seem to be around?
The whole herd of them, they watch the calendar and they disappear and the hunting season opens.
They come when we turn the electric fence off. John,
We have a couple hunters, but doing bow shooting and muzzle loading. They've had no luck, but there's plenty of deer around. The deer just stay out of range.
They just know.
What's that?
They just know.
Apparently they just know. Yeah. Because there are deer all over the place. I mean, I see deer everywhere.
literally, they're in the field. You go out, walk out there in the gator, and you see them. They run into the forested area, but only like about maybe 30 or 40 feet in, and they just hang out there waiting for us to leave, and then they come back out. But they don't go far. I don't know.
We had to fence the strawberries this year, the first time.
Would you use for fencing?
Well, electric.
Right. They do seem to know. So how's your food, Pete?
Maybe we're getting some weird audio.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Well, is everybody enjoying a little bit of rest? Is it quieter? I mean, I know Steve's selling
When
Christmas
you
trees, but
make something smaller, where does it go? How can you get it back?
what, Happy?
When you minimize it, how do you get it back? I'm just talking about the picture, the frame, I don't know what you call it.
How are Christmas trees, Steve?
They've been going. We'll probably sell out this weekend.
I heard there was a shortage.
I guess there is. We ordered from the same place we got them last year. We got what we ordered.
Yeah. I saw online that like Kirkybit was already out like the first weekend or something. I was like, what? Oh man.
So I've heard that. I've heard a lot of the suppliers are just either going out of business or, a lot of in Canada have like just are, I don't know, they're older generations, the younger generations are taking it up. I don't know. What,
I think there was a surplus about 10 years ago one time and they planted less and now it's catching up.
Mm.
Huh.
Interesting. I wonder too how much just like the wet weather this year in New England, like for the New England tree growers, like if that was, you know, disease and stuff was affecting things as well. But I don't really know.
We went out to Groton on Saturday and cut down our tree in a place that we'd used before. And there were lots of beautiful trees because last year not many people came. But there have been so many people this year that they expect to have like nothing in stock again next year. But the trees were beautiful. So,
Where'd you go? What was it called?
oh, I can't even remember. A friend went with me. It's just some farm. They don't advertise or anything.
I feel like a lot of those places are like, because everybody goes to the same place year after year. Like they
Yeah,
don't-
they just send postcards. If you go there once, they send you a postcard, and I don't even think they have a name.
Yeah, fun.
It's like an old speakeasy.
You gotta know it's there.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, we've got a lot on the agenda, so maybe we should move forward here. We have Gaining Ground with us tonight, which is awesome. We wanted to talk to you guys for just if you guys wanted to sort of tell us what you do. We know very little.
Has anyone been out to Gaining Ground?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep, I've been there.
What about in the last like 5 years?
Yeah.
Just
Did-
Oh.
3 years ago, you had like an open house there, a
Oh.
training session, and I went to that.
Oh, great. Yeah, so I'm fairly new. I've worked, this is my 3rd season working there. I spent about 7 years at Waltham Fields Community Farm, but I was there last year and then I took over the management role this past season. So it's definitely changed quite a bit over the years. We have a lot more tunnels and a new barn. But yeah, just a general overview of the farm. So we're a 3-acre no-till regenerative farm, and for us that means we have a permanent bed system, so we're not driving our tractor in the field. We do use a walk behind tractor at times, but so we're growing over between like 40 and 50 different kinds of fruit and vegetables. We're not certified organic, but I like to say it's kind of beyond organic because we're not strictly not spraying anything of any kind, really trying to focus on soil health and mulching, compost use. So everything that we grow, we donate to food pantries and meal programs. So we're donating to about, I think this year was about 18 different organizations. Some we've been partners with for, maybe Polly knows, probably more than 20 years.
Yep, open
And
table. Mhm.
Yep. And some are, so they're throughout Concord, Sudbury, Lowell, Boston, Chelsea, Bedford, the surrounding communities. So some have prepared meals at like schools, some are at shelters, some are just on regular pantries. So it's a bit of a range. So, and then we also have a maple sugaring operation, a very small one, that we tap trees around Concord, and produce about 45 gallons of syrup and donate that as well to a market we do in downtown Concord that serves about 100 families. And then we also have cut flower program. So we're donating bouquets. About this past season, we did 100 bouquets every week to families as well. So that is just a quick snapshot of what we're growing and where our food's growing. And it's done with the help of many, many volunteers. Last year, because of COVID, we decided not to have volunteers, but this year we brought about, I think it was almost 2,000 volunteers back. So all ranges of ages and abilities. So some school groups, I think this year was a little bit of less school groups because of COVID, but special needs groups and corporate groups, religious groups, individuals come out. So a whole range, and we really, aim to connect people to the land and their food, and how to show them how we do it with a no-till system, which really joins nicely because with no-till, it does require a lot more human power. So we do have a crew of, well, there's myself and a year-round assistant manager, and then 5 other farmers that come on, like kind of scattered throughout the season. So yeah, that's the basic overview. I can definitely talk more about the no-till systems, but Polly, did you want to add anything to that?
I think just the pandemic really exposed the deep inequities in our food system, and talking about food justice. We found some great new partners, as Anna mentioned, in Somerville and Chelsea and East Boston, and also in Framingham. And so for the first time, we've made a lot of new connections, and that's really opened up our eyes, I think, to how many partners want to work with us and are so appreciative of fresh food. I mean, these are families who wouldn't see it otherwise. And even when they don't know what to do with the daikon radish, they're willing to learn, just because, fresh, crunchy things are so beautiful and so healthy for them. But I have a feeling you guys are more interested in no-till, and Anna's the expert on that.
One thing I'm sort of curious about, aside from that, is so you're growing the stuff, picking it, and then how are you getting it to all of these different locations? That probably is the big job.
Yeah, so a lot of them do come to us to pick up on a weekly basis. So we have 3 distribution days, but we actually, with COVID, we were looking for ways that volunteers could help us. So last year, actually, we did get a lot of people coming to volunteer to just do deliveries. So that actually did carry through into this year. Yeah, so it's kind of a mixture, but it does take a lot of coordination upon our program manager. But for the most part, they are sending out people to pick up produce weekly. Yeah, any other questions? Or
So with the way that you do no-till, are you using silage tarps, or what kind of?
yeah, so we do use silage tarps. I'm trying to get away from them a little bit because I don't want to use them as a crutch, but yeah, so essentially our aim is to really have the soil covered as much as possible, with living plants, and then second with mulches of some kind. So been trying to connect a lot with landscapers this season and get leaves to spread leaves on as a mulch for any like bare fields. We're doing cover cropping, so we either have oats and peas that have been killed off already, or we do a winter rye and crimson clover mix that will manually tamp down in June, and then that's when we do really use the silage tarps to kill that cover crop, and then we'll like directly plant into that, and it will be a mulch in place already. So we have that, and then we will put tarps on in the winter if we don't get if it is just bare soil, trying to keep it covered, preventing erosion. But I think kind of the main tenet of no-till is really minimizing the disturbance of the soil because of all the life in there that is feeding the plants. So we're trying to promote more of fungal dominant, not fungal dominant, but more of a balance between fungal communities and bacterial communities within the soil. And I think there's some studies out there just showing it really does help with weed growth. We don't have a lot of weeds because I think because of all the diverse life within the soil. And then this past season, we installed a couple we have a lot of hedgerows scattered throughout the farm. So I want to try to focus more on native plants. So we put 2 new hedgerows in that were just like grassy areas that we put all native plants in, and hoping to attract more native pollinators and create habitat.
Do you want to say anything about the soil amendment process? Because I know when we first started out on the farm at Gaining Ground, it really wasn't soil, it was sand. It was like a sand and gravel pit. It was the worst soil ever. And I think that probably in my lifetime over there, the biggest change has been the restoration of this healthy soil. And I don't know what Anna does to work her magic, but it involves a lot of testing and a lot of different elements, a lot of different minerals that are measured.
Yeah, we are, we do soil test and just basically are looking for the deficiencies and adding things like the trace minerals like manganese and boron and sulfur, but we are applying a good amount of compost. So that is one something that we put compost on every single bed, which
So
I think
you just top dress.
Yep. We'll lightly kind of like scratch it in with, we have something called the tilther. Maybe you know of it. It's a Johnny's like drill powered tool. It just does about 1 inch to 2 inches. So yeah, we're basically just top dressing because we're not mixing anything in deeper at all.
What do you use as a nitrogen source?
We have a blend from we get it from Seven Springs Farm. It's there, I think, in Tennessee. But it's a blend of like kelp meal, alfalfa meal. I'm trying to think what else is in there. It's like a mixture of different things so that it's hopefully releasing at different rates throughout the season. I think it's like a 617 NPK. But yeah, it's I think it's 7 Springs, but mixed by Neversink Farm that's in New York. Yeah, so any other things you're curious about? I definitely invite you to come to the farm at any point. We have,
Do you make
for those of you,
or do you get compost in, or?
Yeah, we do. We bring compost in from Vermont Compost Company, but I think we will be needing to switch soon to try to find something does not have manure due to the phosphorus levels. So I'm curious if anyone else knows of a good source, a non-manure based compost source around here at all. If you think of it, you can email me. Yeah.
I know
Who
Cavicchio
does-
used to sell a lot of compost. I'm not sure what they do now, but that was all from leaves and wood chips and things.
Hmm. What's it called?
Cavicchios in Sudbury.
Okay. I'll write that down.
Who does your soil testing?
We send it to Logan Labs. They're in I think it's Ohio. So they do a different kind of test than that UMass does. I'm forgetting what it's called. Maybe Melic 3 or does that ring a bell to anyone?
We get ours through UMass, but I'm sort of interested to check out this Logan to see what the difference is.
Yeah. Yeah, it was recommended because some of you might have known Doug, the previous farm manager. He really initiated this no-till transition. So it's only been about 5 years of it. And the yields have doubled, which is quite amazing. But I think there's also a lot more intensive crop planting that we're doing. So we're really like doing like 3 successions of things, definitely in all of our tunnels. But there's some of you might know of John Kempf, but I think that's been an influence of Doug's and how the approach has been for soil amending.
So just on a very basic level, can you talk about the whole planting process? I mean, do you use a machine or what do you?
No, so we at times we'll use our walk behind BCS, but essentially what will happen in the spring when we're going to plant something, we'll either rake the mulch off, like oats and peas will have died, and then we'll rake that into the pathway, and then if the bed needs broad forking, we'll broad fork it, amend it, and fertilize, just walking with a bucket and a yogurt cup. And then we'll put compost down. We have 80-foot beds, and we put this year we put 16 5-gallon buckets down on each bed. So then we'll either rake it out or use the tilther, that drill powered like mini, it's kind of a mini tiller, but it only goes 2 inches. So that kind of like smooths out the bed, and then we'll transplant into that or direct seed into that. And in the past, with the BCS, we have used the power harrow. That's kind of like 2 egg beaters that mixes in and kind of like creates another smooth bed top, which we also have a paper pot transplanter that, I don't know if you all are familiar with that, but it's this, maybe you all are, but it has these chains of paper that will kind of self-plant as you drag this apparatus down the bed. So with that, we have to make a pretty perfect bed top to be able to use that. So yeah, we're either direct seeding, transplanting by hand, or using this paper pot machine for planting.
What percentage of the stuff do you grow in the tunnels as opposed to in beds?
So we have 5 high tunnels and 10 caterpillar tunnels. So I mean, we're growing on 3 acres. We probably have half of an acre or so in tunnels. I haven't done the math of how much is covered in tunnels, but we start seeding March 1st in our tunnels. So we're harvesting like beginning of April in all of our tunnels, and then we just harvested on Tuesday. And we could be harvesting more often, but at this point we're harvesting every month. We're trying to distribute some greens and some root vegetables every month. So we have spinach in one tunnel, we have carrots in another tunnel, and then we grow a Salanova lettuce mix that we're like overwintering. So I don't know if did that answer your question?
Sure. Yeah, should come out sometime and take a look at it.
Yeah, we have a lot of season extensions, so there's a lot going on just even right now. But in one of our tunnels is called the Rolling Thunder. I think it was built by Rimmel, but you can move it to 3 different plots. So we're able to, like this last season, we started carrots March 1st in it. And then once they were able to germinate, we moved it to early sugar snap peas that we paper potted in. And then we've been intercropping. So we put spinach on the edges of the peas. And then once those were established, we moved it back to the 3rd slot. And then we got early tomatoes. So it does give us like a boost kind of 3 different times. And then we can, if we're really ambitious, we can move it back again to like overwinter kale or chard or something, but it is a lot to move it more than 3 times in a season. But helpful because we can get cover crop down in those slots and not, take up valuable growing space in a tunnel.
In terms of scale, like I don't know if you guys like, when we think of like when we're talking about like how much production we're usually talking dollars. Do you guys have any? I know because you're donating it, maybe you don't, but I was just sort of curious, like how do you? I know there's like a poundage thing, but that doesn't mean a lot.
Yeah, we have focused mainly on poundage up until I think, Paula, maybe but I know that this year we've been starting to like try to value it out. But it is challenging because obviously if we were for profit, we couldn't maybe we wouldn't be able to sell everything we are growing. Whereas like we're basically a wholesale where we can just like bulk harvest and distribute. But yeah, I'm curious about that.
Yeah, we're trying to move away from the poundage because we don't grow a lot of the really heavy vegetables. We don't grow a lot of potatoes. We grow so many more greens and really lightweight things. We're hoping to move toward nutrient density as a measure. And this year we did play around with pricing out the cost of a lot of the greens. We measured what we gave away in terms of servings, and Allison, I think, is working on a way to look at the value of it. But it, as Anna says, it's not accurate because nobody, maybe people at Gaining or at Open Table didn't want those daikon radishes, but here they are, they're going home. So they might not have paid full price for them. But then they might have had a war out in the parking lot over the Salanova greens. So it's a tough measure. Do you guys all do it in what you take in? How do you measure?
Well, for when we have to report, like we report to the USDA, when you get your vegetable survey or whatever, like part of it is like harvest logs. They want to know that, but the other part is dollars. Like, well, how much did you actually make off of that?
Okay.
So
for our own purposes, we have dollars, but we just use units that with a little bit of tweaking, you could potentially correlate to pounds, but there are units that are meaningful to us, like buckets of tomatoes. The buckets are all the same size, bushels, bunches, and we can, those are the units that are meaningful to us.
Okay.
Because I was wondering, like if you're doing by pounds, obviously your bouquets don't seem to, you don't weigh.
Yeah, right. Dried flowers don't get you a
Yeah,
lot
we
of-
don't weigh those. Yeah. I was just a part of, I think it was yesterday, the craft EMAS craft planning meeting.
Oh, yeah.
And we are going to be doing a craft in August about whole farm systems and a no-till system. So it's in August, which is kind of a busy time, but if you want to come out there, then I signed us up for that. So
I guess for most of we're probably the only other nonprofit in the group right now, and we do our stuff primarily through our farm stand. We used to do a fair amount of business with Russo's, which closed this year. Early on, I sold a few things to Steve.
Not going to make any money doing that.
Drove a hard bargain.
I'm not either.
So I guess, we were talking about having you come and talk to us, and it's sort of the general consensus is that it probably makes it works for you because of the tremendous amount of free labor you're getting through, people that are volunteering time. But you said last year, the first year of COVID, you weren't doing that. So was that quite a challenge to have 2 people, basically 7 people doing everything? Or?
We actually had a farm staff of 9, which was, in my opinion, it actually was too many. Like, I think probably 8 would have been fine. And it went very well. I think it was one of the best growing seasons. Because, we weren't spending time coordinating or teaching or giving introductions. We were very just like hyper focused on growing food.
I think what Anna wants to say is that those 9 people did the work of 7 farmers and 2,500 volunteers, and they had more free time last year than they've ever had. Every time I volunteered this year and I worked alongside one of the farmers, it would be hilarious. There'd be 4 of us pulling carrots in one row, and then Erin would get down the other row and pull the whole row. All the 4 of us did one. And then she would start on another row, and we just looked at her and thought, we are working as hard as we can. We are doing the very best work that we can. We're not taking any breaks, and we are 1/4 of a farmer each. I mean, we measured ourselves in terms of farm power, and it's humbling. And we were like the good volunteers. We weren't the school group that was having potato fights or throwing squash at each other. We weren't the people who didn't want to step in the mud. We were the focused ones. So there's a huge trade-off when you open up the farm to volunteers of all ages and abilities and become an educational institution. You really, these farmers are amazing and they do it with passion. There's a big trade-off because the quality of our work is not beautiful. And they're so compassionate about it. But I do think that if you had to weigh the costs and the benefits, probably comes out pretty even. That's what we learned last year.
Yeah, I think kind of as a no-till like guideline I've heard is having 3 farmers to 1 acre is the ideal. If you're not using any tractors, but there's so many ways. Like, I think I have never been to any, but I've heard about a lot of larger farms doing no-till and just having permanent beds, but still using, just like driving the tractor wheels in the same pathways, and not just like trying to really minimally disturb the soil and not break up like the fungal communities and protozoa and all the other life forms. But yeah, I've heard basically 3 to 1 acre is kind of the sweet spot.
I think that's the New England vegetable, what is it? New England
Fruit and veg.
Yeah, conference next week has a section on no-till. The last time I went to a no-till session, which was a few years ago at that conference, there was a bunch of larger farms that had tried and basically failed to implement all the no-till stuff. And it was really like, this works very well on a small scale, but scaling up is really difficult.
Yeah.
I'm curious to see, because like Cedar Circle, I think in Vermont, has been switching over, which is a much larger farm than 3 acres. They're like 6. So I don't know.
I think it might make a difference on soil types too.
Yeah.
I think that's better suited for a light soil. A lot of our soils are quite wet and heavy, and I feel they do need to get aerated. And also I like to grow as tall and thicker crop as I can of rye and vetch and turn that into the soil. Now that disrupts the soil to a point, but I hate putting a rototiller in the field. I like to just plow it and leave it big clumps and then finish off the surface in a fine seed bed, but not disrupt the clods underneath.
Yeah, I think the soil type was something that this was like 5 years ago. I saw this session, so don't take this with a grain of salt. But the soil type was a big factor. It's like how much clay is in your soil was a big determining factor on how successful it was.
Yeah, I haven't worked with any heavy clay soils before, but
is this
I could see with a broad fork it would be challenging. But I think the other thing with no-till is it's a lot of upfront kind of input, like putting on a lot of compost in the beginning and kind of building upward, is how I think a lot of, on a smaller scale, how it's done.
I think salt box is transitioning to it. I think. Anybody? Well,
because we've seen that after 4 years, the weeds are gone and the soil is better, and it ends up being, if you can invest all the hours in the beginning, it's a good bargain later on once you get the soil balanced.
Yeah, the weeding is, I think, very key, because then you essentially don't really have to weed, and it saves a lot of time.
Awesome.
Well, I go to the NOFA conference, or Bobby and I go to it, and you have these people that do these, these presentations about no-till, and they talk about how their soil is so fabulous they can stick their hand down to their elbow in the soil. They just throw the seeds on the ground and walk away. It's just some of it. I mean, I don't know. I feel a little suspicious about it, I guess.
We're not there yet, but I have heard, maybe you're talking about Brian O'Hara.
Yeah.
I do want to go to his farm and see it in person, because I think it could be inspirational.
Of course,
but I think I just was gonna say it's from reading and seeing other people's farms, it seems like it's a process and it takes a long time.
Of course, no-till was really revolutionized by conventional farmers.
Yeah.
Most of the corn, or I don't know about most, but certainly a significant percentage of corn and soybeans are grown no-till throughout the country, with the help of herbicides and no-till drills and that kind of stuff.
Anna, is Waltham? Are they also no-till? Waltham? No, they're not. Is this your first time doing it?
Last year was really my first introduction. Yeah, and I kind of dove in, and I've just been reading up a storm and going to conferences and
Awesome.
trying to meet other no-till farmers. There's a neat podcast, the No-Till Market podcast that is this guy, Jesse Frost, interviews no-till farmers across the country / world. And it's helpful to hear other people's stories and how they have come into it and started it. So
Yeah,
A fair number of people are getting grain drills, so I mean, like, I don't know if you know Eric Nussman, does a lot of corn, and he got a grain drill that he's trying to here for the first year. I don't know how it went for him. Sorry, Brian, I interrupted you.
Oh,
Nope.
I think I was just thinking about, like, we've tried a little bit, but labor is like our highest cost on the farm, and I wonder like how much food you get from 1 acre, if the sales of that food could support 3 farmers, like that ratio to me, would sound.
yeah, there's this one farm that has been inspirational for me, who is doing it as a for-profit farm, is in Maine, called Frith Farm. And I'm sure it sounds like he would be willing to share financials and such, but he does a lot of presentations and has written a book recently. But his operation I think is one to look to as a farm that sells produce and has to make a living. So you should check that farm out. It's hard with us because we're obviously not selling anything. But for like poundage, last year we grew 127,000 pounds. Sorry if you can hear that. My husband is vacuuming. But yeah, this year was challenging for us with all the rain. Some of our fields were underwater, which was hard for our peppers and some of our cabbage and broccoli. But yeah, I wish we could have more of a comparison with for-profit.
Yeah, I think that'd be interesting.
Yeah, I don't think we necessarily need like not asking you to provide the comparison.
No.
I just in what you could grow on 1 acre. That's just where I always get stuck into.
Yeah, I always think of the last 2 years in working there, I've tried coming from a CSA farm, and I've tried to think well, how many CSA shares could we really produce if we were selling them? So I want to think about that more, and if I come up with more of an accurate estimation, I'll let you know.
It's not your job to do that. Think about it.
Anybody else have anything? Well, thanks, Anna, so much for sharing.
And it's nice to see faces of farmers in Concord, because I feel like we're, it's so easy to get in your own world in the season. And
oh yeah, we feel that way too.
Yeah.
No, it's I hope in general, I think part of that, we wanted to meet you guys and we wanted to talk more about what you guys do, but I also think we would like to do more with you. The ag committee, we do the annual ag day, but we're trying to do more stuff throughout the year and do more, we're involved in the town and stuff. So would be great to have more input from you guys too, because I think a lot of people in town, you're their main point of contact. They might shop with us, but a lot of the kids volunteer there or something.
Mm-hmm.
It's everybody knows you. Anybody else have any questions or anything?
Well, thank you for having us on, and
Thank
yeah,
you.
I'd love to definitely be more involved with all of you.
Awesome.
Just nice to have community.
Friendly, mostly.
Be careful what you wish for.
Be careful. Yeah. Well, on that note, thank you guys so much. You please stay for the rest of this. But if you don't want to stay, that's also okay too. We are going to move on to talking. Steve is part of the pollinator committee now and do you have a little update, Steve?
Yes, the meeting got postponed once or twice from not getting the notice in time, I guess, and a little disorganized, but we finally did have a meeting. It was mostly get acquainted and a little organizational. And some discussion about what they might do in the next year for promoting pollinator health, which is the basic charge. And one idea that I suggested might work is that if the farms on this committee maybe took up growing and selling some pollinator plants and some seeds and possibly do plantings on the farms, and maybe we could find a good program to go with the forum, to the spring forum, to promote pollinators, both honeybees and natural probably. I haven't quite thought in detail how that might work out, but I'll just throw this mess out and let you folks think of it.
Thanks, Steve. Which I guess brings us to agenda number 5, which is the spring forum brainstorming session. I'm sort of assuming we still want to have a spring forum in some form. Everybody's on board with that?
What is the spring forum?
Does anybody else want to explain it? Not just me.
Well,
We've done, oh, go ahead, Steve.
well, part of our charge is to educate the public as to what's going on with Concord agriculture and promote Concord agriculture. And each year we've done a program that is sometimes a round table of farmers or sometimes an invited lecture and different things all related to agriculture and Concord agriculture.
And this past year, because of COVID, Emily, who is not on this call, led the charge of making a video with the Minuteman Media that was like a sort of a visual version of a spring forum event. I think the guy who was doing that left, so we sort of never did our part 2 that we meant to for that. So that could still be on the agenda also.
Yeah, I was gonna say there were a lot of farms, including ours, that had said, "Oh, we can do it later," because there were enough farms that wanted to do the spring one. That I feel like there's probably a replacement at Minuteman Media Network. Like part 2 would be nice.
I guess so. The question is, I think, do we want to do like, I can find out who the replacement possibly has been if they hired somebody. That I can do that. So maybe we can figure out if there is a part 2 possible at some point next year.
Bill had said last year to contact Erin Stevens.
Okay.
About it. She's the town information officer, I think.
Yeah, I've talked to her a couple times.
Or there probably, if there is some replacement, they're probably listed on the website.
Sometimes not. I can contact her and we can see if we can get that ball rolling again. Because I think we were also not, we said we'd do something. We did that over there too. So it would be nice. I think especially too, if we did not necessarily for the spring forum, I think we'd originally talked about doing it like August, September, like having a fall version. I think that still would be nice. I mean, unless you guys want to do another spring focus.
It'd be hard to get too much for a spring forum at this stage, I think.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, I think Steve's idea of doing something with maybe in joint with the pollinator committee would maybe be nice for a spring forum event. You know, we
Good idea.
if we did it not necessarily in March, but we did it more like end of April or something, we could, you know, do something more tied in with planting. You know, we could maybe like, could we use Steve's tent? Could we do it outside if we're pushing to late April? You know,
Yeah,
I don't know what COVID's going to look like by then. So that's
well,
the other-
nobody does.
right. Does anybody have any other ideas we should talk about too?
We could do something on plant viruses.
Fun.
You have something in mind?
No. It's just, you know, viruses are in the air, so.
But yeah. Let's get some plant virus that has an interest in deer.
Or a deer virus.
Everybody's sick of talking about viruses.
Well, I think with the originals, like that, the spring forum last year went through like several permutations where I think partly because of COVID, but we were originally talking about, you know, having this spring thing where people would come to the, you know, a limited amount of people would come to the farm and participate in something, you know, either observe planting or, you know, something that we do that might be interesting to them because they had no idea how we do it. Which I still think is kind of could be an interest, you know, when I think about how we plant a variety of different crops, I think that when people think about farms in Concord, you know, they really have no idea how that stuff gets done. It's just, you know, they know stuff gets planted, obviously, but they don't understand the logistics. And so because of COVID, we were thinking of combining that with a film that people could go see, because there'd be only a limited amount of people, you know, that would fit with social distancing and so forth. But I guess that's kind of expanded. So I don't, you know, I think that, you know, addressing people's, I don't want to say ignorance, but, you know, lack of knowledge about kind of how things happen could be interesting. It's just like the woman who emailed us about the lettuce. How, oh, you should just do this, and I've had lettuce and my lettuce is beautiful. And I'm like, we're putting in, you know, however many thousand every week. I don't think we're going to be able to do that. But so that people can get an understanding of both maybe scale, but also the technology and the I don't know.
Well, sort of the big issue last year was just how much, like we were talking about, was it late March, early April, just how much actual activity had happened at that point was.
Right. Yeah. So we talked about kind of pushing it and having a rolling thing where a different farm would have a different week or something like that. Never quite came to fruition in that way. I'm just thinking of showing off our nifty machines. That's it.
You're
You just want to show off the flame waiter.
Oh no, I don't. That could be a disaster. Carousel planter is what I'm thinking of.
He just wants to show off the bomb. Does anybody else have thoughts?
I sort of like your idea of maybe doing more of a fall forum, but I don't know. Oh, Siri.
Do you think so? I mean, I think the advantage to the spring forum that we've considered in the past and having something at that time period is just to kind of wake people up to the fact that we are entering the season, and it's time for you to start thinking about, you know, shopping at local farms and planting your garden and blah, 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 blah.
I think those are good thoughts.
Yeah.
It's probably, would it be unrealistic to get back to something more like what you did prior to COVID, or I guess we're still kind of.
Well, we kind of did that at the museum this summer, right?
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, so I think it could be possible. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think it's unrealistic to think that. I mean, we don't know, but I think it's not unreasonable to think we could plan for something, and then if we had to cancel it, we'd have to, you know, like, I think.
I mean, it'd be great if it could be outside, but that time of year it's really dicey.
Well, we could have the tent available anytime if that was appropriate and people wanted that.
I think that'd be the perfect place rather than inside.
Yeah, I mean, I think if we push something to like late April, the weather's usually starting to be not so terrible. To have people sitting. I mean, if we wanted to do something that was a little more traditional, let's say at Steve's tent, would we want to? Do we like the pollinator concept? Maybe of bringing somebody in to talk about pollinators, and then we could tie it in with more plant sales, or do we want to spread it out? Like, what? There are other topics we would like to discuss.
I think pollinators are a hot topic,
They
and it does tie in with plant sales, or it can tie in with plant sales.
Well, I think it particularly could tie in with plant sales if we do sort of what Steve is suggesting, and we even market a little bit some plants, like we're growing specific things for pollinators and selling. You know, we could make that a tie-in that, like, oh, all the farms in Concord are also, they grew, I don't know, flowers, something. Not, I mean, like we mainly grow vegetable starts, right? But like, you know, something else.
Sage, Liza.
Sage. Oh God.
Sage is a good pollinator. I'm allergic to sage.
I'm very allergic to sage, which is why he's saying that.
What happened to sage?
I am highly allergic to sage.
Oh.
It's a fun random allergy that is a real problem in the farm stand.
Okay.
Steve, does NRC have a representative on the pollinator committee?
I think so. I really haven't gotten all the players of mine in a brief Zoom meeting. Nobody said that's who they were. I'm not sure. I think they might.
I'm just curious because I know that Delia has been installing like pollinator gardens
Right.
all around town, including like in inside the circle of our like driveway.
Right, yeah.
Oh, really? Like on?
They were involved in the pollinator committee too.
That's something that farms could do, have a demonstration pollinator garden, I suppose, too.
Yeah. People would like to know what they should plant for
Yeah.
pollination. And if you had samples of them for sale at this event, you could bring home some plantable plants.
Right, and there are wildflower mixes and things that work for pollinators too. The seeds.
Do you think is it maybe reaching out to Delia and seeing if there's somebody?
Yeah,
What if we got someone like from Boston Honey or some of the other honey guys around who bring their hives to different locations and collect the nectar? They probably have some more personable reports to give to innocent bystanders.
good. It's not all just honeybees now either. There's been a lot more emphasis on native pollinators.
Mhm.
But it would be interesting to have a bee guy.
This summer.
Yeah. I'm just a little bit skeptical if Delia's putting pollinator plants in traffic circles, because we all know that exhaust is not the best thing for plants or for insects.
Oh, this is not a traffic circle. It's like near our driveway, but they've been all over town in different areas.
And all of their customers have electric cars.
Oh,
No
Oh,
exhaust in our driveway.
Curious to walk behind them, but it is low exhaust.
We had a biologist on our staff at Walton Woods Project, and he got the brilliant idea that we should have some native grasses on the bank of the farm. And among other things, there was a mix that he got that had some kind of sedge in it. And it is horrendous.
That's
It goes right through all the plastic grades.
oh my God.
It's just, we're pointed out all.
That's
Not,
the
not,
worst weed there is.
not
Wait, it
the
had
yellow
nutsedge
nutsedge.
in the mix?
What's that?
It had
Not the-
nutsedge in the mix?
It had some kind of, I think, sedge grass or something, but it's just brutal. Is that what it's called? I don't even know.
Nutsedge, yeah. That's
Yeah, yellow nutsedge does that. It'll go right through plastic like nothing.
Yeah, well,
Or your potatoes.
before he got to put this mix out, so I don't know.
That's very prolific because it has a flower that goes to seed and it sends shoots underneath and it leaves, what do you call them, like a nut there that'll sprout down in the future.
They're
at all
edible.
different depths.
They're edible though, those little
it
nutlets.
tastes good.
Start selling them.
Or selling them.
You
Yeah.
like them roasted or what?
I mean, we're selling purslane now.
Yeah.
Oh, right.
I like that.
It
Yeah.
tastes good.
Good.
Well, I guess where should we start with this, you think? Should we maybe reach out to Delia? Or like, is there anybody you could think maybe would be a good?
I was talking to her a little about it and she sent me a program online that they did a while back. Said we're welcome to use any pieces of that we want to. And I can forward it if people want to look at it.
Yeah.
You should probably talk to Mark Hansen, right?
Yeah.
Because he's the pollinator committee.
Yeah,
And maybe Andy, I don't know. I think it would be interesting to have a commercial beekeeper, maybe not him, but somebody,
He certainly has opinions.
just to get some perspective on, that kind of perspective. I agree with Steve though, that native pollinators is also a good issue to talk about.
Had things with like more than, when we don't have one main speaker, we've done like panels or pretty small.
Right.
Yeah, could have a couple people if we don't have someone who's like a real speaker who would just do the whole thing.
Yeah, I think that's even more interesting. It's hard for one person to kind of hold up a whole hour and a half or whatever it is.
Mhm.
Unless you're Steve, you can do it.
So why don't we go ahead and look at the program that's already been done and see what we can glean from that. Meanwhile, talk to the pollinator board and see if they're interested in what they suggest.
I'll send that around tomorrow.
I can reach out to Delia. Do you want to talk to Mark or do you want me to?
Well, we'll be having another meeting. Actually, there was one scheduled for last Monday that was canceled because it didn't get posted right. I think we'll probably be meeting next week sometime unless they're putting it off till after the holidays.
Okay. You want to talk to him at that?
Yeah, we can do that at the next meeting there.
Should we kind of be targeting late April, or is there, how does everybody feel about that?
Yeah, I wouldn't think before that, probably.
Steve,
Yeah.
we're okay
Not
using
if
your,
it's gonna be outside.
what?
Not if it's gonna be outside.
Right.
Okay. I mean, I like the idea of using Steve's tent. I don't know how everybody else feel about that one. Frank's up for it.
I mean, you could do it in conjunction with Earth Day.
Oh yeah, that's right around then.
Yeah, and wake people up.
Yeah,
Birthday is usually in the middle of school vacation, just
well, good point.
FYI.
So maybe not in school vacation week.
Oh, the
Please,
darn school
when it's
vacation.
not school vacation week, please.
Usually right around the very end of April is when we put the tent up.
Yeah.
Right.
All right. So let's vaguely target that and we can pick a date next time. All right.
It might be interesting to survey all the farms and see how many have permanent hives or visiting hives. And you know, I'm sure there's some questions that people would have about, do you need other pollinators than honeybees? And if so, how do you attract them? Are you afraid of them? And one of the first years that I was at Shimone's, I had planted sunflowers, and Grace's father would come out at sunset, and he would see the bumblebees on the sunflowers, and they were just like dozing, and you can pick them off and hold them in your hand, and you know they're not going to hurt you anyway. But a lot of people are terribly afraid of bumblebees. So
I think it would be interesting to have a discussion about for which crops pollination, you know, bringing in pollinators is absolutely critical, like almonds and so forth. And then which crops where it's considered to be extremely important for good fruit set, like orchards almost all bring in hives, and which crops don't need pollination because they're wind pollinated or self-pollinated. It'd just be interesting for, I think there's a lot of, not misinformation, but a lot of lack of information out there.
Thing for the orchard that, I mean, I guess the orchards we probably use, unfortunately, they're bringing them in to pollinate, and then, I mean, they come in and then they leave because they don't want to be around for when they're spraying chemicals.
Right, right. Mm-hmm.
That's why Andy likes us. Well, cool.
Mhm.
Should we move forward? How are we? Go pick a date next time, but we seem like we have a direction. All right.
Oh, sounds good.
Sounds good. All right. Ag Day 2022. Let's pick a date. Let's talk to the town.
I push for, like, you know, trying to orchestrate it with the library, because I think that was a really good.
So I did talk to the library. They are not ready to pick a date at all, because normally their book sale is in June. At least it's in the spring. They're not sure if they're going to go back to a spring date. They love doing it with us. That worked out very well, the synergy. They're not ready to make a date selection yet. If they do end up doing it in the fall, they said, let us know which date you guys end up on. If that works, let's again coordinate. But they may be going back to doing it in June. So I think we're left with, like, we have to move forward probably. And then if they end up with us, that's great.
Do we try to nail a date down at this point?
I think we should, so we can get it approved by the town. What are we looking at for September?
The 10th is the first Saturday after Labor Day.
Does that sound good to everybody?
Yeah,
I think it sounds good. I was trying to look on the town website, but there obviously isn't much yet.
Yeah, I think if we get in soon, then maybe we get before them. As far as the feedback we got from the town was, everybody was like so happy with Ag Day that I think we're in their good graces. So.
I think it was probably the best one we had.
I think Melissa and I learned a lot too about what to do next time. But
Yeah,
I think,
we need to find some of those volunteers that Gaining Ground knows to help us out.
Anna, if you really, it would be great if you guys participated. There are lots of nonprofit, well, I don't know, some nonprofits did unrelated to farming, but I mean, you know, we're selling stuff. I mean, you probably wouldn't want to sell stuff, but it would be great if you had a table and a tent so people could learn about you. And
Yeah, we'll do it this year. This was the
Yeah.
first year we hadn't. We had a board retreat that day, and we had food for families that day, and we just didn't have any bodies to come sit at a tent.
no, you guys did tours, I think. The days
Yeah,
were-
we did tours later in the day once the retreat was over, but we won't do that. We won't make that mistake again. Now that you've picked the date, we're on it. We're gonna.
You're on
clear
it.
Yeah,
So I think it'd be
we'll
great.
plan around it.
You know, it was this year, the weather was in our favor this year, so that was lovely. But the nonprofits that did come, we got great feedback from them. They had a really positive experience. They recruited a lot of volunteers, and they also just, like, the land trust they brought their maps. They were talking to everybody. It was great.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So it
And
was.
Only partially kidding about the volunteers. We don't know any teenagers. But we have this like craft, like veggie car races and things that would be like perfect for high schoolers, but our,
Melissa, I did that veggie car race for 3 years with shrimp, and that's why my hair is white now. I have never been so stressed in my entire life. I still have veggie car nightmares about it. But we do have a farm team. We have a
Yeah.
farm team, and we might be able to sucker some of them into it. What do you think, Anna?
Yeah, high schoolers are always coming to us for hours for their community service
Oh yeah, this would be great.
hours. So
that'd be great. Well, we'll try to have it more organized so we don't stress anybody out. But space and have supplies and stuff, like more preparation, but have it lined up hopefully for some more people helping get the axles in the vegetables.
Yes.
Holly, my brother did it this year, and he was completely stressed out. He was running the drill.
Well, it was hilarious because you couldn't tell the parents that the axles had to be parallel for the thing to go. It's the parents. The problem's the parents, not the kids. The kids are fine. It's those parents with power drills. It was like a nightmare.
They have seat belts and helmets.
I just felt bad for the vegetables.
But everybody was great this year. Honestly, the feedback was lovely. So, you know, it was good. But yeah, next year, more volunteers. All right. So everybody's good with September 10th. Is this something we need to vote on? We don't need to vote on this, do we? No. Okay. I can talk to the town and we'll get that process rolling. All right. Other business. I have one. Minuteman Tech reached out to Emily, who then forwarded on to me. The technical high school that's in Lexington, Kentucky. They have students who would be interested, that are in their horticulture program, that would be interested in doing like projects. So if you guys have any particular projects that you think might be a good fit for a group of high school kids, they would love you. They also have, for the older kids, for the juniors and seniors, there's like a co-op option there. So they would come like during a particular class time to you regularly throughout the semester. Like you know, you could pay them like an employee, basically, like a co-op at Northeastern. So any sort of like longer term projects, they have those as well. So they are looking for projects, particularly farming projects they would like. And if you guys have anything that you're like, oh my God, I just need, I don't know, 10 kids to build a giant chicken coop or something, let me know. I can connect you. I don't know. I'm trying to think of something.
Liza, you said it was during like a particular class time. Does that mean that they would only have like an hour at a time?
I think it depends greatly. I think I don't know how long it is. I think it's like if they're coming once a week, it might be a longer period. I think their class periods are fairly long. So it could be pretty, I think it's flexible. It also depends. They can do it after school time too. It doesn't have to be during the school time. It can basically be like a job for them. They would just be getting school credit in addition to whatever.
The email said instead of shop, so I envisioned it being longer than like a class.
Yes.
Yeah, it wouldn't work out if it was just like a class.
No. They show up for like 40 minutes.
Liza and I would have already just written back no.
And this is like we're starting in the spring, or when would?
I think they said starting in January, they can do something, but if you just had a project in the spring, that potentially would be not necessarily like a full long semester student. That might just be like a small group of them going to do something. But we had a Minuteman Tech student work for us this summer who was lovely. Shout out to them. we hadn't had a Minuteman Tech kid in a while, and so it was kind of nice to remember the school exists. So that was fun.
Great.
I could probably rebuild a tractor for us or something.
I was just thinking that maybe they could drill some vegetables.
100%. We need to get into them. Does anybody else have any other business we need to cover? Public comment. Next meeting, January 13th. Is that right?
Sounds good.
I'm gonna go backwards on my calendar. That is the second Thursday in January. Does that look good to everybody?
Yep.
Anybody else have anything else they want to say?
Okay.
Well, thank you all for joining us. Thank you, Polly. Thank you, Anna, so much.
It was fun.
I'm glad. I hope you come next time. We do this once a month.
I'm gonna be harassed if you don't come.
Yes.
What other farms come, or is this the regular crew?
This is the regular crew. Who else comes usually? Well, Chip Putas comes.
Putas, yeah.
Who else normally comes, guys?
Emily.
Emily comes, Emily Wheeler. Who else is a regular?
Brooke Redmond.
Oh yeah, Brooke comes, yeah, sometimes. She hasn't been.
What
in
about the farm that, I don't remember what it's called. I drive by it on my way home. It's on Polly, it's off of your road, kind of.
Bill Kenny. Is that on Virginia Road?
It's not Virginia. It's not Bedford. Oh, it's on 60
62. Oh, you mean
or 62.
Rotondo,
Or
Who?
Shimoni, that's half-
Rotondo,
Rotundo or Shimoni?
Shimoni's here.
Oh,
Grace,
Shimoni's here.
Oh, okay. I
Happy
didn't-
and Grace are Shimoni.
but Grace showed up late. She's down there. She's
Oh.
at the bottom of the Christmas lights.
Hi, I've always wanted to say hello.
Hello.
I go by every day.
We had to mute because my dog keeps barking.
Oh,
Oh, that was your dog.
I don't know how to turn it around. Hold on. See?
Oh, hi.
Hi. Hold on.
Hi, Reed.
Maybe am I there?
oh yeah.
yeah.
Hi. And this is my sister Roseanne. Hi.
Oh,
I usually use the phone, but I decided to do it on the laptop and the camera's only pointing out and I don't know how to turn it around.
It's awesome. The Christmas tree looks great, so don't worry.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Very cool.
And we mute because the dog is gonna bark again any minute. He walks by.
He thinks we're all there.
Yeah, that's That's the problem.
Well, I'll bring Anna to visit you guys
Oh,
sometime. soon.
anytime would be great to meet you. There he goes again.
Probably not in February.
No, please don't. Please don't. We won't be there.
Awesome. Well, motion to adjourn the meeting?
Yes.
So moved.
Second,
Meeting adjourned. It is 8:30.
Yay.
Bye.
Perfect.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, everybody. Thanks.
Thank you so much for coming.